Back on February 26th of 2012, we heard the story about a smiling young black boy who was pursued and gunned down in cold blood in his neighborhood, and his name was Trayvon Martin. Turns out that the truth of the story was considerably more complex than that. I did one of my first afterburners about that, went into some detail about it, and the story was not nearly the way that the news media portrayed it. However, we saw the same thing happen with George Floyd. When you dig into what happened during the case of that arrest, there's all sorts of mitigating things in there that weren't reported. But I think those days are over because of a very simple piece of technology. Hi, everybody. I'm Bill Whittle here with Steve Green and Scott Ott, and this right angle is called the Bodycam Revolution. I should say the police Bodycam Revolution. After the mostly peaceful protests that burned down a great deal of America's cities and smashed a lot of American stores' windows, it became almost universal policy, at least for big city police departments, to issue wearable body cams, which go right in the middle, and they record everything. Now, I was a huge fan of the show Cops. I just loved it because it showed me what life was like for actual police officers. You would see somebody in the beginning of a segment basically shooting heroin into their arms, and then when they're caught, he said, "No, I didn't do that. I swear to God, I didn't do it." Well, here's the thing, guys. It's now there's hundreds of thousands probably of cops out there recording what cops do and what they have to do in the course of their job. And two things I've noticed because I've become addicted to these police body cam videos. Steve, let me start with you about this. I am completely blown away at the level of disrespect that is shown these officers. They're constantly being told, just F off. They're being, you're just a giant P and F you and F you and F you, and forget the non-compliance, just the verbal assaults. This generation has been taught that the police are the SS, and that that the highest form of virtue that a young person can achieve is standing up to the man, to the guy in the uniform. But when you see these body cam videos and you see the amount of abuse that these officers have to take and how calmly they respond with it, it's astonishing that anybody does the job at all.
Like you, I love the police body cam videos, and I also love all the videos. I found them on a lot of Twitter streams now. I think I told you guys about this, of people just doing stupid things, getting themselves hurt, trying out wacky stuff that goes wrong, all of that stuff. I love those too. And a recent one I saw was this guy. He brought along his buddy with an iPhone or whatever, recording all this. This guy went to 4 cops out on the street, and he's got this makeshift fishing rod with a donut dangling off the line. And he's taunting the cops with the donut. He wasn't even under arrest. He just went out looking for this particular trouble. And if you find the video, guess what? He found himself some trouble. I'm not saying the police can do no wrong. Clearly, that is not the case. And one of the reasons I love the body cam videos is because it helps the police remember their responsibilities, who they are, and what the standards are that they have to live up to. And I think we need better policing, and I think that's a great way to get it. Is give you an example. We spend about 3 hours a week talking to one another, which is not difficult. I love conversation. Conversation is just, it's practically my superpower. But taping the show for 3 hours afterwards, I'm exhausted. And the reason is that little circle right there at the top of my monitor. It's a camera. And when you're on camera, you are on camera and you are on. There's a whole nother part of your brain that starts to engage to keep you in that on camera mode, and that does wonders for policing, I think. As for these events, the latest one, I think it was in Georgia, where a police officer, a sheriff's deputy, pulled over this guy in his truck doing 100 miles an hour down the freeway, and then the guy simply would not cooperate. And he was saying all the things you were talking about in your introduction. He finally is out of the truck and attacks the police officer. And at one point, he's got he's just like shoving the cop's head back so far you think his neck is going to snap. At which point the cop finally pulls out his baton and he's beating the guy with a baton. That's not working. He finally gets his pistol and shoots the guy in the gut. And all of this is not just on the dash cam, it's on the body cam. And one of our new columnists at PJ Media, Ashley McCauley, wrote about this last week. And her headline was something like "No More George Floyds." Or,
that's exactly right.
And this is so good, not just for better policing, not just for sending the bad guys to jail who need to go to jail, but for creating one less friction point, creating one fewer thing for the race hustlers to hustle.
Exactly.
And it's a godsend, Bill. I don't know what else to call it.
Just a real quick follow-up with you, Steve. Saw a headline not too long ago that said 8 children arrested in McDonald's. And well, you think, wow, the police are knocking into McDonald's and arresting children. That must be a pretty intense sign of police brutality. Turns out there's a body cam available for that. And on the body cam, you can hear the police officer telling them 15, 16, 17 times, if you do not leave now, you will be arrested for trespassing. And he still doesn't arrest any of them until the one guy is actually out of the building, and then he walks back in again. And at that point, he says, okay, you're under arrest. And they're under abuse this whole time. But there's 2 sides to every story, and the video camera gets them both, do you think?
Well, a camera, even a video camera with audio, presents an incomplete picture, but it's a much, much more thorough picture than taking somebody's word for something. And, there's something I meant to mention. I'll keep this as brief as possible. My wife has something of a lead foot, and she got another speeding ticket not too long ago. And the first thing she did after rolling down the window was put her hands on 10 and 2 on the steering wheel, so that when the deputy or the police officer came to the window to have his little talk with her, he can see her hands, both of her hands on the wheel, while she very calmly told him that she has a concealed carry license. And
perfect.
Yes. At which point the police officer said, "Can you show me do you have the weapon in the car?" And she said, "Yes, it is in this location," which I don't think she could reach. And he said, "Will you very slowly remove your license, your CCW license?" And she did that very slowly. And he said, "Thank you," and handed her the license back. And that's how you do it. That's it. Just
we forget the fact that every time there's a traffic stop, that officer is walking up to the car, and he goes and says, "Hey, good afternoon," and he can often be met with a pistol to the face, shot in the face. Every single one of those things is an uncertainty for them. I'll tell you this. When it said 8 children arrested at McDonald's, I thought, oh, that sounds pretty harsh. But then when I saw the abuse that they were hurling at these police officers and the number of chances they were given, I realized that if I'd been in the police force that day, it would have been 8 children shot dead at McDonald's. That's what I would have done, because it was unbelievable.
Were they 9-year-olds there for a birthday party or something, Bill?
No, they were teenagers. They were probably, I want to say, they looked like maybe 9th, 10th graders, somewhere around there. Their faces were all blurred out, but you could tell from their size and their body language. Yeah. But they're still children. They're minors. They've been taught their whole life not only that they should do this, but that they can get away with it. Here's the other thing for you, Scott. There's another angle on all this that I hadn't believed before. What I'm seeing since body cams are out there, and maybe as a direct result of the body cams, as Steve pointed out, is that I am seeing police officers whose primary job is to be a psychotherapist. Yeah. That's what these body cam footage things mostly reveal, is the amount of slack they're giving, the constant efforts to de-escalate the situation. 15 warnings to get it, ma'am, if you don't get out of the car, I'm going to be forced to break this window and pull you out of the car. I don't want that. You don't want that. Can we please be reasonable? That kind of thing. And then you get these, a lot of Gen Z kids who've never been told no before. They're terrified. They go into these emotional meltdowns. And then the police have to start talking to them about their childhood. And it's an unbelievably difficult job. And all of the comments on all of these body cam videos that I've seen 100 of them, all say the same thing. I had no idea it was this tough being a police officer. I couldn't do this. I couldn't take this kind of abuse if my life depended on it.
Yeah, I think we tend to think, because maybe we've seen in dramatic presentations, police shows, that it's primarily about marksmanship and physical prowess. But you're right. It's more about emotional prowess. It's about the ability to remain calm in the face of chaos, to be able to speak calmly, to give accurate direction to people, to avoid further inflaming a situation when you're dealing with somebody who may be inebriated or mentally unbalanced. And so, they've constantly got to be able to keep their cool. Every police officer wants to go home to their house at the end of the day. They want to see their family again. And they don't want to be in a situation that triggers some sort of a violent outbreak. Now, police officers, as Steve pointed out, are human beings. And so you also have police officers who have addiction problems and mental problems and things like that. And those people are often found out before they get involved in some sort of terrible situation, but sometimes we find out when they get involved in a terrible situation. In any case, I think at very least, these body cams give us something that demands an explanation. Like Steve said, it doesn't give us all the information we need, but at least it gives us a foundation to say, okay, at this point in this interaction, officer or suspect, what were you thinking? What was your intention here? What was going on off camera? What inspired you to have this reaction? I think in general, everybody is more behaved when they know they're on camera if they're sane, if they're not inebriated. But I think I hate to say we need to live in a world that has cameras on everybody so that we can make sure that stuff doesn't happen. On the other hand, I'm glad they're there, if only as exculpatory evidence for people who are doing the right thing, whether those be the police officers or the citizens in the situation. That just gives us another piece of evidence that shows what actually happened at the time. Now, as you've pointed out before, Bill, it's possible to look at a snippet of video and, number one, not see the larger context of what was going on, and number two, to slow things down in the video to the point where it makes it look like something was happening that wasn't really happening. It's like when I watch a football game and they slow it down, they go, oh, did he have possession of the ball? Well, you're like, holy cow, he was holding the ball for like 10 seconds in the slow-mo replay. It depends on how you use that video. So step in the right direction, not going to prevent police officers from being mistreated, but at least it gives them an opportunity later to say, hey, this is what I did, this is what I said, you can see it here.
One of the things I'd like to just real quick is this issue of context. I mentioned cops. Now, cops go out on location. They do this thing. The arrest might take an hour or something, and good editors will turn that into 8 tight minutes of drama. And they're most of the time they're telling the truth of the story, but they might not be. You don't know. The thing about the body cam footage is most of these clips are 30 minutes long, and most of the time it's 30 minutes long is that camera goes on, he gets out of the car, he walks to the car, he stands, or he walks back, he fills out the paperwork, goes back to the car again. It's never off. You can never claim that it was deceptively edited because it's just recording everything all the time. It is an astonishing, really astonishing breakthrough. We have not had, since the George Floyd incident, we have not had another George Floyd incident. It's not been too long, only a year and a half or something, 2 years. 3. But I suspect that there have been a number of cases that could have been blown up into the kind of blind rage that we saw with Trayvon Martin and was it Brown in the Baltimore suburb?
Michael.
I am convinced that there are a number of cases where the situation looked like it would fit the liberal narrative. White cop shoots dead black driver who was not committing any crime or anything. And then they see the body cam footage and then they realize there's no way we can sell this story because because the police have video of this guy smashing him in the face. It's an amazing achievement for law enforcement. So I'm glad it's there. I'm also glad that we have things like iPhones because the people, the citizens, have a right to body cam too. And I'm not like a lick-spittle kind of a police junkie. There are some bad cops out there, and I have seen times when people would be holding up an iPhone, and a policeman will come up real aggro and start demanding your ID and say, you don't have to give me, what's your probable cause? I don't need probable cause. You know, those kind of guys need to go. So it's a wonder across the board, but I can't recommend it highly enough, folks. If you haven't done it, just go to YouTube and just search for police body cam footage. And if you want
Police Activity is a great channel.
Okay.
That's what it's called, Police Activity, and it's nothing but body cam videos on YouTube.
If you want a real adventure in modern sanity, search for body cam police footage Gen Z traffic stop, and you will see histrionics which would have made Charles Nelson Riley blush. In any event, there really is something to this statement. You know, who are you going to believe, me or your own lion eyes? And it turns out that we have our own lion eyes now everywhere. And all I can do to close this episode is to repeat what I've seen again and again and again at the end of every one of these episodes. We have no idea what these police officers have to put up with. Yeah. We don't have the faintest idea of how aggravating this is, how insulting it is, and how cool they remain under pressure. I would have shot practically everybody in one of those things. Would have found some reason for it. It's unbelievable. They are so kind and accommodating. I sometimes think they're too accommodating, but in any event, you really do need to watch a few of them, because with a few exceptions, the vast majority of the police out there do a job that is much, much dirtier than we think it is. And they do it with a great deal more grace and professionalism than we suspect they do. For Steve Green and Scott Ott, I'm Bill Whittle. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time right here on Right Angle.